this is Vicki Robinson, and today I wanted to show you how to install color swatch files or layer style files that a designer may include in their kit. For instance, in my Put a Little Love in It collection, I have included samples of the colors that I've used so that you can use it for your brushwork or other things that you want to color that may not be included with the kit. So let me show you how to do that. First thing you need to do is navigate to wherever you have downloaded your zip files for the product that you've purchased. And once you've got the zip file, you need to uncompress it. So in most programs, you can double click on it to uncompress it. You may need to right mouse click on it and say either open with and choose your uncompression folder. I think on Windows it just says uncompress or decompress maybe. It might be different on a Mac, but you should be able to double click on it and the zip file will open for you. And then you will see the little folder that was inside of the zip. You can delete the zip file if you like. You don't need it once you've got the file unzipped. Some people keep it as a backup. That's totally up to you. But I'm going to open up this folder now and let me show you what's in it. I include a little sample of the colors that you're going to find in these swatches. So that's what you see here. But the other thing, the most important part, are the files that Photoshop Elements and Photoshop need to have to load these files into your application. This one big one here that says swatch, it ends with a .aco. So if you ever see a file on your computer that ends in .aco, you know that that is a Photoshop or Photoshop Elements color swatch file. The color swatches are all the little colors that you see over here in the color swatch panel in either the full version of Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. And the other thing is that you'll see here that I've provided is a .asl file. And if you ever see a file like that on your computer, that means it is a file specific to Photoshop or Photoshop Elements that contains style information. And styles are things like your drop shadows and your bevels and those kinds of things are styles. Okay, so now that you've got your file unzipped and you know what files you're looking for, let's come over to Photoshop Elements. I'm working in Photoshop Elements 2020, and the instructions should be the same for loading this no matter what version that you're loading. Now let's go ahead and let's load the color swatches first. If your color swatch panel is not open already, come to the Windows menu and choose color swatches. And from here, we can go ahead and load my swatch file. Come to this little, I can't make this bigger for you, I'm sorry, it's very tiny, but it's a little, what they call it, a hamburger menu on the right hand side of the screen. It has a little drop down arrow. And from here, you're going to choose load swatches. When the dialog box comes up, you're going to need to navigate to wherever that download folder is, wherever the folder is that contains the colors, and double click on it to open up the folder. And then Photoshop Elements knows that the only kind of file that we can put in a color swatch file has to end in ACO. So right now you see it's the only file that is not grayed out. It's the only kind of file we can load. So I'm going to click on that once and say open, and then the color swatches will appear at the bottom of the color panel. Now to load these, let me show you how you would actually use them. Let's just choose a brush from the toolbar, B for brush, and I'm going to choose a hard round brush, just the one that comes in the default brushes, just to show you. And I'm going to use my bracket key to make that much bigger. I'm going to come over to my layers panel and I'm going to add a new layer here so I can brush on a new layer for you. And then I'm just going to come over, just bring my cursor over to these swatches, and I'm just going to choose one, and then I'm going to start to paint. And you can see that every time I choose a new color chip, my foreground color changes to the color of the chip, and I can paint in those colors. So that's easy enough, right? Well, now let's go look at that other file that I provided for you, which is the layer styles files. So if your styles panel is not showing, remember you come up to the Windows menu and choose styles. And then when that's open, again, come up to this little hamburger menu. Make sure that you're clicked on the styles. Click on the little hamburger menu and say Load Styles. Once again, you're going to navigate to the folder that contains a style file. And again, Elements is smart enough to know that it can only open an ASL file. You'll see that that ACO file is not even available to open. ASL is a style file, so I'm going to click on that and say Open. And right away, you'll notice something a little bit different. When we loaded all those color swatches, Elements put the new color swatches right at the bottom of your color swatch panel. But when you load styles, Elements puts them in their own little grouping of styles. So you can see, you can see that the drop shadows are still here, the bevels are still here, but now you have the grouping of color styles that I provided right for you, easy to get to. And these will stay here even if you exit Photoshop Elements. So to use them, we're just going to click on that, and you can see they are the same colors that were provided down here, but these are actually styles. So now let me go ahead and show you how you would use these styles. If you recall, when we are working with brushes, we choose a brush and we choose a color, and whatever color we've chosen is the color that your paint stroke is going to be. Let's add a new layer here. But when you're working with a style is applied to the entire layer that you're working on. And I think you already know that anyway, right? So if we clicked on my brush stroke layer here, and let's say we went up to the drop shadows, we could apply a drop shadow, and when we apply that style, double click on it to apply that style, right, it applies that drop shadow to everything on that layer. So if I go and change my colors, let's change to this yellow color and paint on here again, make sure I'm on this layer here and paint on that layer. Everything that I paint is going to have the color that I chose applied to it and the layer style, the drop shadow, right? So let's come up to a new layer here, and let's hide this one, but let's click on this new layer. And this time, let's go back to our brush tool, the same hard round brush that I was using. This time though, instead of clicking on a color chip, I'm going to paint using the styles. So coming back to the styles here, to the styles that we've loaded, I'm going to choose this orange color. I'm going to double click on it. And now when I paint, notice that my color chip is still yellow over here, but the style I'm choosing is this orange. So as I'm painting on here, double click on it. As I'm clicking on here, as I'm painting on here, everything's going to be coming, my brush strokes are all going to be in the orange color. If I change my style of this layer and choose the pink instead, watch what happens to everything on that layer. When I double click on it, everything on that layer changes to the color that this style is. Come back over here and you can see that the style here is there, that I've got a style. The FX indicates to you that a style has been set. On this layer, the style that I chose for my brush work was a drop shadow. On this, the style for this layer that I chose was a color chip. So you would use the style as opposed to the color chip if you want to change everything on that layer to whatever this style is. If you just want to change the individual brush stroke, you would make sure that there is no layer. Let's add a new layer here and hide these. Oops, not that one. Let's hide. Let's choose a new brush again. So we've got my brush, still with my brush chosen. Now I'm choosing pink. Notice that my color, foreground color changes to pink, and everything that I paint on here will be a different color according to what I've chosen. If we instead go to choose a style, see my foreground color chip is still pink, But this time I'm going to choose this dark green. Watch what happens. I'm going to double click onto this layer and everything on that layer is going to change to a style. So you really use the styles in a different way than you would use the color chips. It's up to you and what you're trying to do, which one of these that you're doing. Well, there you have it. I've explained to you how to use color styles, how to use color swatches, how to load them, and what the difference is. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave them below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up or a like, and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.